gerrymandering, gerrymandered maps, the corrupt cartography that's going on in Texas and potentially Missouri right now, and the ways that you address that in the short term. But more importantly, how do we fix this in the long term? Because everything that's happening right now is only for this decade. And then there's another census in 2030. And then we can do this all over again unless we make some permanent changes. And that's what the Wisconsin Fair Maps Coalition is all about. And I recall telling you about their first 2, maybe 3 stops on a statewide tour. And I'm looking at their Facebook page right now, and there are plenty more hearings to talk about. And so Luscely Flores from the Fair Maps Coalition joins us now to talk about how you can go to one of these and learn more and what are the larger issues at play. And so let's go over that now with Luscely Flores. How are you this morning? Good morning.
Hi. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, we actually have 7 more events up until October, and we're hoping to increase. So if any listeners here today want to have one in their communities, we'll drive to you. We are driving to Egg Harbor, Door County. I've never been to Door County. We then are going to Menominee Falls, Menominee and River Falls, which is 45 minutes away from St. Paul, Minnesota. So we're literally across the state for the next 2 months.
Yes, and I'm looking at like I said, the Facebook page for that, and it's easy enough to head over to Facebook and look for WI Fair Maps Coalition, and you'll see that these hearings are September 10th, Egg Harbor, September 11th for the Menominee River Falls area, September 25th in Madison, September 26th in Milwaukee, La Crosse on October 14th, Winnebago County on October 15th, and a rally at the Capitol on October 16th. And all of this is designed to do exactly what you say when you talk about making a permanent fix to all of this. What would be the best fix?
Yeah, so we're pushing for an independent redistricting commission. We just finished drafting a proposal, and we'll be looking for some legislative champions to help us push that through. But it's basically a citizen-led commission. It's distinct from the legislature, which is not controlled by representatives of any political party. Like you mentioned, we're going to have to deal with this again in 2030. So we want to create this for the purpose of drawing legislative and congressional district lines away from the hands of politicians. We at the coalition recognize that gerrymandering is wrong no matter what party does it. And what you mentioned, Texas, what's happening there is not an isolated issue. It's part of a broader national strategy to consolidate control. And so we're trying to give that power back to the voters.
And in doing so, it is essentially an indictment of the current system writ large, which over the years, over generations, has been abused at times by people from both parties. It is, it is my position as a former Democratic lawmaker that there is definitely a side that is abusing it more. But what a lot of reformers are saying is this isn't about, who's doing more, who's doing less. It's about finding a permanent fix. And these are my words, not yours. It is clear that over the generations, there's no longer a public trust of politicians to police themselves and do redistricting responsibly. And so independent commissions are probably the best reform for the nation going forward. Is that kind of what's undergirding all of this push for permanent legislation?
Oh, yeah, of course. And they work. And truly in the entire country, we only have 4 states that accurately reflect a nonpartisan independent redistricting commission process. A lot of folks ask us, why aren't you pushing the Iowa model? Well, the Iowa model is 40 years old, 45 years old, and it still relies on some sort of legislative power to then pick and choose the map that they think fits best. And Wisconsin's not Iowa. Our demographics are different. We're not as white. We have way more communities of interest, people that reflect beautiful values. And we want to make sure those people are actually represented accurately in Wisconsin as well.
There has been in the past as well, along with these in-person hearings, some virtual hearings, some ways for people just to learn more at home. If people can't get to one of these events or the others that are upcoming, are there resources through the website or social media where people can learn more about independent redistricting commissions?
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up. We do have a virtual training tomorrow, a virtual hearing tomorrow at 6 p.m. and it'll be live streamed on our Facebook with Common Cause. They're one of our coalition partners, but we try to be as transparent as possible because we value transparency. So on our website, fairmapswi.com, you can read the draft proposal that we created. It's 16 pages long. There's an executive summary, which is still 4 pages long. You can read the FAQs. So a lot of folks, like I said, ask us why not the Iowa model. We also have the presentation there available for folks that just want to swipe through it. We try to make, and if you can't attend and want to submit comment, fairmapswi.com, that's your place to go if you want to submit comment. And I promise you, we meet for 3 hours almost every Monday to go through every single comment that was made so we can accurately shift and change the draft proposal with what Wisconsinites want. So during our public hearings, we include 4 different opportunities for folks to submit questions throughout so we can log those and then draft and change the proposal as we see fit based on public input.
And again, that website is fairmapswi.com. We are talking to Luscely Flores, the organizing director for the Wisconsin Fair Maps Coalition. If we can go way back and talk about what exactly constitutes a fair map, because I'm sure there are folks that feel either this is very ethereal or maybe they're so cynical that sometimes we need a refresher of what is it that constitutes a fair map? What is it that assures people that rather than gerrymandering, this is something that voters can have faith in? What would constitute that for the Fair Maps Coalition?
Yeah, so some of the criteria will obviously have to follow U.S. constitutional and legal requirements, including equal population, the 14th Amendment, the Voting Rights Act. But it also has to meet Wisconsin constitutional requirements, which are contiguity, which means that the districts just have to stick to one another. So we don't have to draw salamanders and in these weird shapes. Compactness, the consideration of communities of interest, which includes communities that are higher, they speak a certain language or they culturally, they're very connected, maintaining local political subdivisions and geographic boundaries, nesting of at least 3 assembly districts within 1 Senate district. And then partisan fairness is defined as not giving preference to any political party, incumbent or candidate. And we plan on using election data for purposes of ensuring that any redistricting maps meet the established criteria, and fairness metrics will obviously have to be used to evaluate all of the redistricting maps that are being considered. So we're just following the law. That's all we're doing.
Following standards of fairness, which is it really is about the power should be in the hands of the voter to choose their representatives, and not in the power should not be in the hands of the representatives to choose their voters, to monkey around with the lines, to take care of themselves in the short run. This is really about long-term reform, which I wonder, Luscely, if that has been helped or harmed by recent events in Texas, with then California Democrats wanting to respond, and now Missouri Republicans are talking about responding, which is leading Maryland Democrats to talk about responding, and all of these responding mechanisms essentially are, again, politicians being involved instead of independent commissions. Do you feel like that's either hurting what you're all trying to do because people are saying, well, I guess we have to engage in this, back and forth to assure a level of fairness? Or is it helping the cause by saying, well, whatever it is that's happening this year, we need a permanent solution?
Honestly, I think more people now know what gerrymandering means than even 2 years ago. For us, all press is some sort of good press because more people are now understanding the definition. More people are recognizing that gerrymandering is wrong. They're also recognizing it for what it is. It's a form of voter suppression. And we recognize that what is happening across the country it's defining our democracy for corruption and for what we don't stand for it. And so I think more people are recognizing that their values are being compromised and are calling it out. And like I made this sort of comment before about, if you're going to fight fire with fire, there's not enough Neosporin in this entire country that's going to cover up all those burns. And so we really need to be careful with what we do in either, whatever political party you're a part of. But voter suppression is voter suppression. I'm a native Spanish speaker, and when I translate gerrymandering to communities that I'm presenting for in Spanish, it just means manipulating election results. There's not and that's exactly what gerrymandering is. But in Spanish, the wow effect is like, oh my God, you're telling me that even in the US, the country that I came to for, the American dream, also manipulates election results. And I was like, yes, they do. And they have a fancy word for it called gerrymandering. Like they've covered it up with such a whimsical sounding, almost unimaginable word. And so when we translate it, it's like, if you're okay with undermining democracy in Wisconsin, in the country and Wisconsin, and you're okay with manipulating election results, regardless of whatever political party you're a part of, then you do not stand for democratic values. You do not stay. So it's my constant argument with folks. It's not an argument. It's more like, okay, so you're okay with manipulating election results. Great. Mm-hmm. So you're okay with undermining the will of the voter. Great. Just, do you see how terrible that sounds? And so I love that I know Spanish, because I'm able to kind of like get it from a different angle, which is the same thing. It's still gerrymandering. So, we still at the coalition remain committed to our goal of establishing a fair and independent redistricting process, because we want to protect voting rights. We want to foster accountability, and we really want to empower people to shape the decisions that impact their lives and their families. Whatever situation is happening in any other state is just a stark reminder that without any independent redistricting, no state is immune from any sort of abuse.
Right. And by the way, for folks that are saying, you can't redraw 99 assembly districts and 33 Senate districts. You can't redraw 132 districts to be 50% Democratic, 50% Republican. That's not what this is. It's not that's not the definition of splitting it down the middle that way. It's about fairness in representation for a given area, and not manipulating it in a way that essentially turns it 100% chance of a party winning because of the way that you're drawing the lines. Again, to learn more about this, you want to head over to on Facebook, either the Wisconsin Fair Maps Coalition Facebook page, which is WI Fair Maps Coalition on Facebook, or if you want to go through the website, you go to fairmapswi.com. Learn more about these hearings that are coming up. And one more time for those, they include Egg Harbor, Door County coming up on September 10th, Menominee River Falls on September 11th, Madison on the 25th, Milwaukee the 26th, and then La Crosse on October 14th, Winnebago County October 15th, and then a rally at the state capitol on October 16th. And again, head over to their sites to learn more. Luscely Flores, organizing director for the Wisconsin Fair Maps Coalition. Thank you so much for all of the background on this. We appreciate it.